Hi and welcome back to another episode of our 3ds Max series. My name is Arnold Faller and today we're going to talk about editable meshes and how we're going to use them in modeling our 3D scenes. We got a lot to do, so let's get started right away. So you see right here we have a scene with 3 boxes in it, and the first thing that I would like to show you or like to explain to you is the difference between an object that is still influenced by its parameters. That would be, let me quickly maximize the viewport. That was Alt W to get a maximized viewport. And the left box here, when I click on it and check out on the right side modify, you can see that it's still influenced by its parameters, length, width, height, and its segments and so on. The middle one, on the other hand, is an editable mesh. It looks exactly the same. In fact, I also copied the box and converted it to an editable mesh. It's an editable mesh. You can see the object type is here, editable mesh. And what's typical for editable meshes is that you have 5 levels that you can select different parts of the geometry. So starting from the vertices all the way to the element itself. And the last one, you can see that the object type is still the box with an edit mesh modifier on top of it. So while the first one is an object type box, the last one is still a box with an editable mesh on it. The big advantage of this version to create an editable mesh is that you can anytime go back to box and change its parameters. The only problem is once you edit something in the edit mesh modifier, you cannot go back anymore to the box. So this is something that is quite helpful when you do some changes and you want to undo the changes, then you can just turn the changes or the modifier off. But you cannot, usually once there's something changed and edited in the edit mesh, you cannot go back to the box anymore. So that was in general the type. How do I get those objects? And let me delete the second and third one. I just select my first one, that is the box, and let me quickly create 2 new copies. I shift and move the object and I choose 2 copies. The first version, which is now a box, a parametric object, the first object I created by selecting it and doing a right click with my mouse, and I've chosen on the very bottom, convert to editable mesh. Once you do this, you'll turn it into an editable mesh, and there's actually no way to undo it or so. Of course, you can hit undo, but once it's turned into an editable mesh, you cannot go back to a parametric object anymore, except undo for one step. But once you save it, it's done. The second one I did by placing an edit mesh modifier on top of the box. So you select the box, check in your modifier list, and you go down to find the edit mesh modifier, and it's placed on top of the box, and now you have your levels to edit. For right now, I would like to start by beginning to explain you a few things that you can do in an editable mesh, and therefore I'm going to focus on the version that I had in the middle. That was the right click convert to editable mesh. Remember the one without the modifier? That is pretty simple. So let's get started by taking a look at the different levels that you can edit your editable mesh on it. The editable mesh is the most general form of geometry because it is just some kind of object represented by a bunch of little triangular faces that make up the whole mesh of the object. So let's start in this object by going into the first level, and that is vertex level. Just a quick reminder, don't forget, whenever you go into one of those sub-levels, don't forget at the end to go out again. There's a couple warnings. There's a little highlight on the editable mesh. There's also a 3 dots here next to the name editable mesh. So whenever you are in here, don't forget to get out. There's also a couple of shortcuts, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on your keyboard. So with 1, for example, you can get into the vertex level, and another hit on 1 will get you out. To be honest, I'm not changing that much between those levels, so it's not the most necessary keyboard shortcut that you have to remember. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just like we did with the editable splines. By the way, if you have not watched the editable spline video, I'm going to put it into the info box. It is important that you watch the editable splines first, because there's so many things that apply to the two-dimensional lines just as well they do to the three-dimensional editable mesh. So make sure you've watched the splines first, and now we're going to talk about the editable meshes. So I'm starting here in the vertex level, and the first thing that I would like to show you, what can I do to those vertices? First, I'm going to switch into a wireframe mode just to make sure that you see all your vertices. I am in a perspective, by the way, but that doesn't matter. We can do it in any view. So here are the blue little dots for your vertices, and I'm gonna pick one. Always make sure you don't pick those vertices by clicking on them, but by catching them with a little window. Because only when you catch them with a little window, you make sure you get all the vertices at that location. But also make sure that you don't select any vertices that are behind it. So don't select anything that looks like this, because now they are like in the foreground and in the background. And if I select it, I get the ones in the foreground and in the background. So always make sure you rotate them to the side and then select the point with a little window to make sure you get all the points. By the way, you can see how many vertices that you have selected on the bottom here of the first list, and it says vertex 6, for example, selected. So once you have a vertex selected, one thing that you can do is you can move it. That, of course, changes the geometry, and here's a little hint. Whenever I move something in different levels, vertex, edge, and so on, I'm showing you how to move it by dragging it around, but then I'm hitting escape so that I jump back, so that I don't mess up my geometry by doing all those changes. So first, with dots, you can simply move them. Let's show you in a shaded view. If you move the vertex, you somehow change the top face of your geometry. How that changes, we're going to see later as soon as we know how edges work and how faces look like. Let's select two vertices here, in the front and the back, and of course when you select those, you change the geometry in another very specific way. And this way you can go, of course, can do, of course, all kinds of things and so on. So move is one thing that you can do a lot with the vertices of your geometry. When you select a vertex and you hit escape, then you get a big mess. So you try not to escape vertices, because just by deleting one vertex, you get a big hole. You deleted all the faces that were connected to this one point. That's why I'm going to hit Ctrl+C for undo. So don't try to delete anything, but move is something you can do in vertex level. Let's switch to the next one, and that is the edge level. The first thing that I would like to show you, let's do the same thing as we did before in the vertex level. Now you can select an edge. This time I'm asking you to select the edge by clicking on it. Do not drag a window, because there's a danger that you select more than one in the back. You can also do a window, but edges are also fine to click on it. Edges are usually not very likely that there are two edges at the same location. With vertices, that happens quite a lot. So I'm going to select the edge, and then here in the shaded view, I can do the same thing as before, as if I would have selected two vertices. So now with vertex, you can do a couple more things. For example, the vertex can not only be moved, but it can also be rotated. So when you rotate it, you rotate your vertex, or this way, and so on. So you alter the geometry by rotating it, and let me rotate my view this way. You can also scale a vertex. Scaling the vertex just means the vertex is the edge is a little bit longer or a little bit shorter. Again, escape to get back to the original position. Now, when you delete a vertex, an edge, of course, I messed it up. When you delete an edge, the hole that you get is not so big. Usually an edge is made up of two faces. So when you select an edge, usually two faces are connected to this edge. So this is the hole that you get when you delete the edge. Now, here's one thing that is important. When you look at your box right now, you can see a couple of edges. Actually, it's a 4, 8, it's 12 edges, but there is actually more than 12 edges, because we not only have those visible edges that we see right now, we also have invisible or hidden edges. Those hidden edges, you can get them by catching the edges with a big window, and then you will see that there are some edges that have a dotted or a dashed line. So now you can also see how the geometry of your box is actually made up by little triangular faces, and some of the edges are visible, especially the ones at the edges, where it's 90 degrees. The other ones, which are coplanar, which are in the same plane, it's invisible. Quite simple. If you want to, it's pretty hard to find an invisible edge, but once you catch it with a window, you can just click on it, and you will also find it with a simple click. When you select an invisible edge, on the right side you will find, here it says Surface Properties, and you can switch between visible and invisible. So you can take the invisible edge, like right now, and turn it visible. Or I can take any other edge, like this one for example, and turn it invisible. That is not a good idea, because this is an edge that should stay visible. So let's try to find it again. So here it is, and let's turn it visible. One thing, let me select all of my edges and let's turn them all visible. So if you have all edges visible, the geometry looks a little confusing at the beginning, but you will soon find out that it's quite simple how the geometry is made out of those triangular faces. So once you turned all your edges visible, you can use something to again define which one is invisible and which one is visible. There is something that is called auto edge, and it's right here. It says auto edge, and next to the auto edge is a number, and that is 24 degrees. So when you select all of your edges, you can also use Ctrl A when you are in edge mode. Now all my edges are selected, and when I use auto edge with 24, that means all the edges that have an angle, and let me show you, all the edges that have an angle to the planes that form the edge, more than 24 degrees, then the edge is visible. If it's less than 24 degrees, it's an invisible edge. If we look at the edges in our scene, they are either 90 degrees or 0 degrees. So we know the ones are 90 that make up the outline and the edges here between the side planes, and the one in the middle, those are 0 degrees because the two faces are in the same plane. So by selecting all of them and hitting auto edge, it automatically turns all the one in the middle invisible, and all the edges that should be visible above more than 24 degrees, they will be turned visible. Okay, so that is the auto edge function. Let's jump into the next level, and that is the face level. And we already know how faces look like in our geometry. Let me go back to a shaded view, and once I click on it, you can see the highlighted faces. I can select one face, or even with Control, I can select two faces, and so on. So a face is always a triangular face between three vertices. That's a triangular face. What can you do with a face like this? For example, you can again move it. So let's move it. Of course, everything that hangs on the face will move as well, or maybe up, down. Then you can rotate it, of course, and you can scale it. By the way, the shortcut for move, rotate, scale is W, E, and R. So R for scale, the face will be scaled up or down. Again, escape to get back. So in face mode, there's only a few things that you would do on a regular basis. And one of them is fixing normals that point in the wrong direction. So right now I'm seeing my box, and I can see all the front faces of my faces, but also those faces have back sides, but the back sides, they all look towards the inside of my box. So how can I check out which is the front side and which is the back side? Sometimes when you import it from a different software package, it might happen that those two get mixed up, so you might need to fix it. So what you want to do is find out where is the front side, and therefore here's a little button that's called Show Normals. And when you click Show Normals On, then every selected face will get a normal. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a blue line. Let me zoom in a bit. So here it is. That's the axis, right? That's the axis right now. And above the C-axis here is a blue line. When you select more than one, you see it maybe better. All the blue lines, they show you the front side. So whenever there's a blue line, that is the normal vector. And it's attached to the center of gravity, center of mass of every face, and that points towards the front side. So let's take one face, any face, and flip it. So flipping means make the front side and the back side switch. You select your face, and here's a button on the right side somewhere. Oh, let me find it. Normals, flip, here, flip. And when you hit flip, now this piece here, oh, that looks strange. That's not the way it's supposed to look. See, there's something wrong with the graphic card. Let me get another edge. Let's take this one. See, also messed up. Okay, so that usually it should be the whole, the black part that you see here, it should actually be diagonal, not like this. But you can better see it if I think if you render it, it will not show up because it's set to Arnold render engine, is it? Yes. Oh, that looks awful. Anyway, it is not working properly. So now let's go into a wireframe mode, select all my elements, and now you see some of them are a little bit darker red, and those are the back sides. So there's no blue line attached to the darker red faces. So that means those are faces that are looking in the wrong direction, and that happens a lot when you import it, because what is the front side and what is the back side is basically defined by the order of the vertices of every face. So if I take this face, which is regular, showing me the front side, then its vertices 1, 2, and 3 are in counterclockwise order, mathematically positive. So whenever they are counterclockwise, you see the front side. In a flipped face, you see the back side of it, and that means they are clockwise ordered. So that's why the front side points inward. So, but pretty simple to fix. You just select the face that points the wrong direction. Here now you can see the normal points to the inside of the box, and you hit flip again, and it's done. Here was another one. This one also pointing towards the inside. Here's the blue line, select it and flip. There's also a flip normal mode here. So if you have a lot of faces to flip, you can just go into your flip normal mode and click, that flips the face, and click again, it flips it one more time. Flip and flip. I'm sorry about this has to do something with the graphic card. I've never seen that. Usually the faces show up, the flipped ones show up in a diagonal way. Okay, the unify normals, that usually doesn't work well because, that would only work if it's a plane or something where they all point in the same direction. Here it's some point up, some point sideways, and so on. So that was one thing. The next thing that I would like to show is what happens if you delete a face. So select any face and hit delete, and obviously the whole that you get is now only one face. So when you select a face, no other faces that are attached to it are also deleted. Here's my hole, and now this is also the first time that I'm showing you, I'm not hitting undo, I'm showing you how to close a hole in a mesh. So if you have a mesh with a hole in it, and in this case there's only one face missing, and that is a simple hole, you can simply fix it. And the way you do it, you make sure you set your view so that you see all three vertices. So make sure you see all of the three, 1, 2, 3, and make sure they are not like really small, so you look from the top and you see nicely all three elements, all three vertices of the missing face. Now in face mode, you will find here on the right side where it says edit geometry, you will find create. and you highlight, you click on create, and now I don't know if you can see it, but the vertices got highlighted, and when you look at my mouse cursor, now it looks like this, and when you move your mouse and you're on top of a vertex, it changes. So you have to click 3 times, or actually I think 3 times, and the third one is a double click in order to close it again. But make sure you do it counterclockwise, because you want the front face to be visible. So you start anywhere. I'm starting here on the right side. Make sure the cursor is changed. You don't need object snap because it finds the vertex automatically. So it's not creating a new vertex, it's finding the existing ones and creates on top of them. So mouse is here, I click once. Now I have a rubber band on the vertex. I go to the next vertex and click again. And now I have a triangle, and now all I need to do is click a 3rd time. Oh, sorry, the 3rd time is a double click. And here it is. Let's get out of create, and there it is. I'm gonna do it one more time. So I hit undo to get rid of it. Let's make it properly. Turn on create, start 1, then go counterclockwise, 2nd point, and the 3rd one is a double click. And there it is. Right mouse click or turn off create, and now you're ready to continue because the geometry is perfectly closed. One thing, the diagonal line here that is now visible, we know how to turn it invisible. Simply select it and say it's an invisible edge. Okay, so that was the vertex level. The next one is, the face level. The next one is polygon. And the polygon now, if I go into polygon level, in this case, in my box here, the polygon is 2 faces. So, or it's here one side and here one side. Remember, you can see that the show normals is still on. Let me turn that off because we don't need those show normals. So even when you are in polygon mode and you have show normals turned on, you can see that you can see all the normals. So polygons don't have their own normals. They just have the same normals as their faces have. So what is the difference between a face and a polygon? A face is always one face. A polygon can be multiple faces, but not necessarily. It is all the faces within hidden edges, within visible edges. So if I look at the top now and I select, I'm in polygon and I select, and it's a polygon made out of 2 faces. Let's go into the edge mode and select this invisible edge here and turn it visible. Now, as my top now is made out of 2 faces with a visible edge in between, in polygon mode I cannot select the top together anymore because now the polygon is the same size as the face. So a polygon is all the faces that are not separated with a visible line. So as long as the lines are invisible, the polygon can select more than one face. You can do the same thing. You can move, you can rotate the polygon, you can scale it, and you can also delete it. Let's do that quickly. I'm going to turn the edge back to a invisible edge, so the top is 1 polygon. Let's go into polygon level. I don't need to show you move, rotate, and scale, but let's delete it one more time. And now the box is open. I see all kinds of back sides, which are in this case black. So when I see a back face, it's black. And now I'm going to use the same create method to create a polygon that closes this thing. It works the same way. You choose in polygon level, you choose create. You start anywhere. You go counterclockwise and you double click before, the last one. You can also go all the way and click on the same, but you want to save some time. So start, go counterclockwise, and the last vertex is a double click. So I'm starting here on the left side and I'm going this way, and here's a double click and it closes the polygon. Don't forget to turn create off, usually with a right mouse click, and also the face is done. Okay, so that was the most important things to do in each and every level. You might ask me, what about the element level? The element level, let me get out here of the polygon level. The element level is made for when we have more elements attached together. And let me quickly do this. Here's my box, and I'm quickly creating another box, a smaller box, and also let's do a sphere over here. So now I have 3 objects. Only one is an editable mesh, the other one's a box or a sphere. So I'm starting with my editable mesh, go to modify, and without going in any one of those levels, I'm going to choose attach here on the right side, attach, and click on the box and click on the sphere. Don't forget to get out of attach. Now you can see they have the same color. In our list of elements, we see we only have one object left, and it's called box 02. So that means they are all attached together into one object. When you have an object made out of different elements, like we did with attaching, we can use the element level to separately address them. So element is always the whole element together, and as those have been attached, I can later on like move them, I can later on delete them, hit delete, and so on and so on. Hit delete, yeah, you get the point, right? So that is the element level. Everything that is its own element can be addressed with the element level. So while I'm still having an object, 2 objects attached together. I don't need to show you attach anymore. Here it is, the attach button. We also did that with the 2D lines. If you have like 50 objects to attach, I would recommend to use attach list, and that brings up a list of all attachable objects, and you can select them by name or whatever, and attach them all into one thing. So that is polygon or objects can be attached and attached by list. If you have an element already attached, like I have, the small box to the big box, I'm going into element level, select the small box, and when there is attach, there is also detach. So let's see, here is also is the attach button, here's also a detach. When you hit detach on the whole element, it will ask you, how do you want it, if I detach it, what should it be called? Let's call it this. You can either detach it, but stay in the element, stay inside the object as a separate element. Makes no sense because it is already a separate element. Or detach it as a clone, so it stays in the object but it detaches a clone. I don't want to do either of those, so I'm going to get it out of the attachment and have it as its own object with this name. Okay, so go out of the element level. Right now you can only see it here in the list of objects that I have now, 2 objects. You can also see that it's its own object if I change the color of it, and you can see colors only can be attached 1 color per 1 object. Okay, so attach, detach, and so on. I'll show you one more thing in detach, and that is, I'm deleted it. Here I'm back to my starting box. Now I'm going to detach, not an element, but only a polygon. And I'm going into polygon level, select this side polygon here, and I cannot take it and move it away because it sticks to the thing. If I want to move it away, I'm going to have to select it and detach it. Either as its own object, yes, I want to do this because later on I want to attach it again, or detach as an element, so I move it away and it stays a separate element that you can touch with the element level, or as I mentioned, as a clone. So I want my own object, so I hit OK, and now this side plane here is, oh sorry, got the wrong one, I have to get out of polygon level, so here it is. It's an extra object, here's the list with its extra name. So there it is. Now I would like to show you something. It's an extra object. To show you even better, let me switch its color. So there it is. Now if I take the object, use my object snap and bring it back. If I bring it back, I need the object snap, otherwise it will not perfectly sit in the original position. Now it's still 2 objects. And now I'm going to attach it again to its original box. So select the box, choose attach, and choose the the object to attach. It has the same color, it has only one name, so it is already attached. But watch this. When I now go into the element level, you will find out that although it has been attached, it is still an extra element. So go to the element level. Here, that is one element, and that is one element. So just like we did with the 2D lines, just by attaching the object to the other one, it doesn't mean that actually those vertices are welded together. So those vertices here are, actually there's two vertices. One is part of the big box and one is part of the side element. So I can prove it by going into vertex level, use a window to catch the vertex or the two vertices, and you can see it here. It says two vertices selected. So that's not one, it's two at the very same position. And in order to fix that, to turn them instead of two vertices into one, you can use the Weld function. Here it says Weld and selected, and what it says next to selected means every vertex that is 0.1 units, so really close together. This is the same point, not really close together. Everything within a range of 0.1 units will be welded together. So in this case, I have to weld this one, I have to weld those two, and those two. So it's much simpler to select them all at the same time, because there's no danger that those two opposite vertices will be selected because they're much further away than 0.1. So if I hit select, all that happens is those pairs will all be welded. So here it is, 8 vertices selected, and now I hit weld, and now it says 4 vertices selected. So now they're welded together. That means that now in element level, it's all one element. So it's now no longer a separate element because those vertices have been welded together and now it's only one object. Okay? So much for the attach and detach function. Remember, when you attach the two together, always check the point where they are attached together might also need some welding. Good. Now here is, let me show you something, a couple more things, and one of them is in vertex mode. If I select this vertex here, for example, and when I move it up, I'm going to move it up, you can see that what it does, its geometry, the change in geometry depends on which way this top polygon has its hidden edge. So right now the hidden edge, now it's not hidden anymore, you can see it. The edge is visible here. So that means it's a very specific way the geometry looks. If the edge goes the other way, this part will stay flat and only the other one will be moved up. So this is something we can influence. The hidden lines, not only the hidden ones, also any other. If you have two faces next to each other, then they have a certain edge between them separating both faces. And this one line can be turned. So instead of having a left, in this case, in the back and in the front, I can have a face on the left and on the right. You can only do this in edge level. So you go into edge level, select the face that you want to turn. It's called turn. So you select the face and then you hit turn here on the right side. Oh, sorry. That doesn't work. You need to select turn first and then click on the edge and then it turns. It doesn't work when you pre-select it, it's not turning it. So you need to click on it. Okay, one more time, I'm clicking on it, turn. Okay, so one more time, turn. So that turns and the geometry looks totally different. Sometimes if you move certain edges and certain vertices and you want the edge to react in a certain way or want them all to be parallel, especially with imported geometry, you sometimes want to go in there and turn the geometry. Of course, also an edge here that makes up the essential box can be turned. When you try it, it totally messes up your geometry. See, that's not good, but we can bring it back, and there it is. So that is something else that we're gonna fix in a minute. Okay, that is turn in object in edge mode. Let's leave it as it is. The next thing is, the question is, why do some edges appear to be a sharp corner, like this one here? Some edges also here, but some edges don't. In this case, it's clear because it's flat between those two faces, so you actually don't see those. Actually, it's totally different. Who is responsible for if this edge here is a sharp corner or it's a smooth looking corner? That only depends on one thing, and this is called smoothing groups. And you can imagine a smoothing group just being a label on every face, giving the face a number, let's say 7. Okay, so if this face here on the top has number 7 and its neighbor also has number 7, the edge between the two smoothing groups number 7 will be smooth. In this case, in our case, they don't have the same common smoothing group because it's not smooth. I'm going to show you with exactly this example. It's all done in face mode. So when you select face mode and you select one face and then look on the right side, here it says, with all those numbers next to each other, it says smoothing groups. And this one that I have selected has smoothing group number 4. If I select the neighboring one, it doesn't have any smoothing group at all. So if a face has no smoothing group at all, it means it looks like an edge with all other faces. So let's give it this face here also smoothing group number 4, and then we see what happens. Now suddenly this edge here, you see, it's still an edge. When you look from the front, you can see it's still a sharp edge. But when you look from the side, it is very smooth. So the brightness of every face is only interpolated when the smoothing group between the two are the same. So let's do something. Let's select all the faces. And not only can you manually change the smoothing groups, or later on I'll show you how to do it automatically. You have to move it up. Here's also a clear all button. If you do clear all, that means all edges now look like hard edges. To make it a little bit better visible, let me move this a little bit and let me move this a little bit. So wherever there is an edge, as soon as they are not perfectly aligned anymore, they appear like a really hard, like a crystal edge there. So because no one of those faces has a smoothing group. So now I'm going to select in face mode, select this and control this one, and I'm going to give them one smoothing group in common. Let's take 19. It doesn't matter which one, 19. Okay, now they have one smoothing group in common. Now it's a smooth edge between the two faces. One more time here, this one and this one. Let's give them 3 and 4. I gave them 2 common. It's not getting smoother just because they have 2 in common, but they have 3 and 4. Now if I select this one here and give it 3, then also this edge is trying to look smooth. I know it looks weird, so it's smoothing around an edge that, that is definitely not a smooth edge, and that's why it looks strange. If we have an object like ours here, we can also give the object smoothing groups automatically, so like auto smooth it. And this is done the following way. In face mode, you select all your faces. I used Ctrl A to select all the faces. And now I'm going to use the function a little bit down here that's called auto smooth. And auto smooth has a value next to it, and that is 45 degrees. So any angle between two faces that has more than 45 degree angle, have an angle of more than 45 degrees, will be turned into a sharp edge. And everything that is below 45 degrees towards each other will be a smooth edge. You can adjust the value here. For example, all those faces here will be smooth anyway, but I'm not sure about this one. Is it more or less? It's almost exactly 45 degrees, so I don't know, maybe it's a little bit below, a little bit above, so I don't know what the outcome is. So let's do the auto smoothing and let's turn it to 30 degrees, because that is less and it will definitely be a sharp edge. So all of the faces are selected. I used 30 degrees here in auto smooth and click on auto smooth, and now here they are. Okay? It is still smooth. So the angle looks like is, remember, when they are like this, they are 0 degrees and 30 degrees. So it's a little bit, let's go for, oh, I made it worse even. Sorry about that. So let's select those faces again. Let's do 60 degrees. No, I didn't make it worse, sorry. It was less than 30 degrees. That's very unlikely. Let's make it 20, and there it is. So now it is between 20 and 30 degrees, because now with 20, it made a sharp edge. Okay, that is the auto smooth function. Works with all kinds of geometries with smoothing it. Also, when you render it, of course, it will render as a sharp edge if the smoothing groups are the same. So let's select this one and give it one in common. Now it's smooth, and when I render it again, it is a smooth edge here, and I cannot tell which way the diagonal line goes. Okay, now let's do something else. Let's get out of element level and kick out the box. Now I'm going to do a sphere. Select the sphere. Right click and convert it into an editable mesh. Now I'm looking from the side, choose polygon level, and what I'm doing is I'm selecting all those polygons that kind of cap the poles of it, and I hit delete. Now it's an open form there. What I wanted to show you is one more function in edge mode. And now, for example, if you want to select all the edges here that are, you can select, edges, and there's a sphere has a lot of edges, a couple of visible ones and a couple of invisible diagonal ones, and also those edges which are very special because they are so-called open edges. They are right here where the object is open. So an open edge is an edge that only belongs to one face. Usually edges are between two faces, but sometimes one is gone and then it's the open face, the open edge. Here in edge mode is a function on the right side that's called select open edges. So no matter what you have selected, when you hit select open edges, all the open edges, maybe you see it a little bit better here in wireframe mode, all the open edges will be selected. So just nothing selected and you hit select open edges. Now, the open edges, you can do a couple things. For example, create shape from edges. If I hit now, create shape from edges, what do you want? A smooth shape or a linear? I want to stay the same as the geometry, so I'm using linear. Because now I'll get a little line, check for everything. It will look smooth, but it's a line. And there it is. So what I have created now, let's get out of the edge mode, is a line right here at the edge. There it is. Let me move it up. So here's a little circle, and you can do something with it. For example, you can give it the renderable spline modifier, and there it is. The edge that I have just created. So let's hit delete. So select open edges and then create shape from edges. But what I wanted to show you, except not the select open edges, but no, let's do something else. Let's leave the open sphere here for a moment. Let me quickly create a box like this. Only now, box a little bit larger. Only now I'm going to use two height, width, and length segments. So it kind of subdivides length, width, and height into two segments, and I got this little a box that's made out of like 8 little boxes. Right click, convert to editable mesh. Because what I would like to show you now this is all a polygon. So if I select this in polygon mode, I can select the polygon, this polygon, this polygon, and so on. What I would like to show you, it works in both polygon. The options that you have here on your right side, and I'm just showing you a few of them. The options are almost the same for polygon and vertex. Actually, not almost the same, they are exactly the same. So everything I say now that works in face mode also works in polygon mode and vice versa. So I'm going to show it to you in polygon mode. In poly mode, and let me select one of the top polygons here, there's an option called extrude. So if you select extrude, then go with your mouse onto the selected object, click and drag. You can extrude a new face or a new piece of geometry out of it. One more time, I'm not holding the mouse anymore, so click, hold and drag it out, or this way, click, hold and drag it out. Okay, that is extrude. If you want to extrude it, for example this one precisely 10, then you can also not only use the extrude, but go next to extrude. Here is a value, you can enter value, 10, enter. And now I have it exactly 10 units extruded. Same thing works with bevel. Bevel is the same thing as extrude, only it extrudes the geometry and changes the scale of the top face. So let's go to bevel, and if I take the top one, bevels first is pulling out, and then if I let my mouse go, you can either make the end larger or smaller. I'm going to use it for making it smaller, or here, pull it out, let the mouse go, and then make it smaller. That is bevel. It works the same way, but not so well because you have extrude and scale, so I would not do this with this. What means group and local? For example, if you select this and this together, if you bevel them both at the same time and you are in group, you will notice, okay, they do this, it works the same way. Here it works the same way. Oh no, that was a bad example. Sorry. They have to. It would be better on the bevel group and local works better here on the sphere, because when you select the sphere and then you select a couple of polygons that are next to each other, they have to touch each other in order to see the difference between group and local. If I use group and use bevel, then they are beveled as one piece. Undo. If I use local bevel, then they are locally beveled. The hell. Yeah. That works again much better. This is something that is usually done in an editable poly. This is not what editable meshes are famous for, extrude and bevel. So if you stay onto this channel a little bit longer, let me, by the way, remind you, make sure you subscribe to the channel. That helps a lot. Also add your comments there, ask some questions. I'm trying to answer all of them. And of course, recommend the channels to your friends and colleagues. So this is something that I will talk about later, and that is the same way as we have editable meshes here, is editable polys, but the polys have much more options when it comes to, that's why it's called poly modeling, when it comes to model your geometry. But to finish this up, we have a couple more things to do. Here's the box again, because there's one thing that I wanted to show you, the extrude and the bevel. And now here's a few modifiers that work well with editable meshes. Let me get out of the level. Here's the first one. Let me extrude a little bit more, because then it's funnier to show you the modifier. So I'm going to make a couple more things here. Also maybe down and down there as well. And on this side, here's one. And also maybe bevel the outcome a little bit more. So here's one. So like this. Because the modifier that I would like to show you is, let's get out of the polygon level. Don't forget this before you place the modifier. There is actually two modifiers that do similar things, And the first one is called Turbosmooth. So you select your objects, go to your modifier list, and find the modifier called Turbosmooth. Here it is, Turbosmooth. And what it does, it creates an almost organically looking little figure. Turbosmooth basically takes every 90-degree angle, adds another subdivision, and instead of having one 90-degree angle, what it does, it creates two 45-degree angles. So it kind of smoothes up the whole geometry. If there is, I'm going to turn off the modifier, if there is more geometry to start with, it's not that much deforming it. If there's not so much geometry, like here with the larger boxes, it is deforming the geometry a little bit more. So the Turbosmooth can be turned on and off, and you can also choose how many iterations. So a 90-degree angle is 2 times 45. If I click one more time, it is actually subdivided one more time, and every iteration kind of subdivides it. Subdivides the geometry and multiplies everything times 2. So don't enter 20 or so, that will slow down your computer. So even 2 or 3 is already quite smooth geometry. So when you render it, it's rendering a really smooth, nicely plastic looking thing. In this case is really the standard, now there's actually no material on our object. The standard material for rendering in Arnold looks quite nice plastically. So this is the iteration. When you use a Turbosmooth modifier, usually you use it of course at the end. There is also a nice way to make it invisible or not, and what you can do is, with your Turbosmooth, and it's a modifier, so it's stacked on top of the editable mesh. You can always go back to the editable mesh, do some more editing. For example, here in poly mode, let's do some more beveling here, and also on this side, let's bevel something here. The more you bevel, the less it will be deformed. Don't forget to get out of it, and then Turbosmooth looks different. You can also, instead of going, when you go back to editable mesh, you can see the effect of Turbosmooth is turned off. Here's also a button, and this one, I don't know exactly, it's a stack. It's called show end result. So you have a modifier stack, and when you go back one step, the top effect will be hidden. But when you turn this on, it always shows you the end result of your modifier stack. So you have the end result, although you can work on it, and here's the orange piece, as if it's still an editable mesh. So I'm here in poly mode, and let's do some more extruding of this piece here. And now when I extrude it, it looks weird, but it will come out here this way and so on. With Turbosmooth, it looks quite funny. That is the show end result here, or not show end result, but it's easier to model your geometry. Let me remove the I'm going to turn off the Turbosmooth, because I would like to show you another modifier that does the same thing, and that is called Mesh Smooth. So I'm going to select here, and I'm choosing Mesh Smooth. Where is it? Here it's Mesh Smooth, and it does the same thing with only a little difference. You can now choose, you have the same iterations here. We had 3 iterations there. It doesn't show all the geometry than you had before. Remember, with Turbosmooth you could see all the little polygons there. Here it doesn't show a lot of polygons, but they are still there. It's just showing you those ISO lines. They are somewhere here shown. How many there? Here it's called ISO line display. When you remove it, see, it also shows up even more geometry. Oh, because I said iteration 5. Sorry, 3 was the other one. Here is iterations 3. The only difference is to the Turbosmooth. You have now a couple more options that you can choose, and you can also choose which method is used for subdivision. They look almost the same, but not. So you can choose which one fits your outcome best. Is it the NURMS or the classic, and so on and so on. You can play with old style mapping if it's different, apply to the whole mesh or only to the selected area, and so on and so on. If you want to know what all those parameters are, don't be afraid, hit F1 And F1 will give you the Autodesk help file, and when you are in a certain command, then you will get it much simpler. In this case, for example, Turbosmooth and so on. Can find it and can't smoothing mesh Turbosmooth. Turbosmooth. Where's the Turbosmooth modifier? Yeah, you'll find it, I'm sure. Okay, so that is the two modifier, the Turbosmooth and the Mesh Smooth. Two more things, yes. One modifier that I would like also show you is here the hole in my sphere. When you have a simple hole, that means a hole that can be simply closed with one plane object, then there is a nice modifier that does it for you. And this modifier is called cap holes. So you select your object with a hole in it and give it a cap holes modifier. Here's the modifier, cap holes, and it does just what the name says. It closes or it caps your holes. It doesn't work if there are holes all over the place, but if there's one nice hole that can be capped with a flat plane, then this is the modifier of choice. Of course, now you can put another editable mesh modifier on top of it and keep on editing your object. Remember, that is not a modifier that is also not a modifier when you do some changes later on, you cannot go back later on. That's any time when there's an edit mesh involved, an editable mesh modifier or so, then you cannot go back, or you will get unwanted results. Okay, that was the cap holes modifier, and now here's one more thing that I'm sure you like. If you have a simple plane, so not a box, but like a two-dimensional plane, so I go to plane and I'm going to create a plane. That is also something that you can start with, extrude something out and so on. All I want a plane with much more segments. So right now I have 4 segments in each direction, so I'm more thinking about 40. So maybe 40 segments, that is, have a lot of segments there. And I'm going to turn my plane, right-click into an editable mesh. Now, we know when I go in the editable mesh, I go into vertex level, and I select one vertex. Here, let's get one, or in this case, I did it without the window because it's in the middle here. If I select this one vertex and I pull it up, what I get is a little peak or a little spike coming out. This is not what I want. I want to show you something, and I still have my vertex here selected in the middle. In the modify panel there's a category that is collapsed, and it's called soft selection. When you open up soft selection, it says you can turn it on by use soft selection. And as soon as you use soft selection, and that depends on how large your plane is, it will give you see, effect. It uses a soft selection, and it has a fall off of 20. So that means from the vertex that you selected, 20 units, all the vertices will be affected in this curve. So when I select this one vertex and I pull it up, it will be pulled up in the form of this curve. And if you don't like the form of this curve, you want to have it in a different curve, you can always use those 2 values to adjust the curve here, and then pick any other and move it up. You can select it. You can also change the fall off by making more pixels affected and so on. So that is something that you can nicely use if you need some kind of random terrain or so. You can just select some pixels with soft selection. Again, this is something that you would usually not do in Edit Mesh. This is something that you would do in an Edit Poly, because there it works much better. But also the soft selection here works quite nice. Of course, the soft selection is also available in other objects. For example, here on my sphere, let me remove the cap holes for one moment. I select one vertex here, and then I use soft selection, and I can also pull out, oops, I picked one in the back, sorry, undo. Here's my vertex, and I can pull out a vertex here with a soft selection. Okay, so that was the last part here for the working with editable meshes. I hope you got some ideas how to work with it. It is important to get familiar with it. Check out also all the other parameters there, how what you can do to those different levels, vertex, edges, and so on. It is especially important when you import from other software packages, but because this is the tool how to fix errors, how to fix hole, how to turn edges, how to flip the edges if they are looking in the wrong direction. All those things can be done in editable meshes. I hope you liked it. Thanks for your attention. It is an hour long, and I hope that was some time well spent, and I'll see you in the next video.